Lyra's fingers danced across the holographic controls of her lab, creating streams of glowing data that filled the room with soft light. Her eyes, sharp and curious, scanned the information faster than most of her colleagues could even comprehend. Xylaris had always been a world of intellect and innovation. Its cities floated above crystalline lakes, and its people had unlocked secrets of energy, matter, and space that other civilizations could only dream of. Yet for all the wisdom around her, Lyra found herself constantly questioning the old stories her elders had passed down. Legends of humans fascinated her friends. Yet to Lyra, they were nothing more than fairy tales dressed in metallic suits and strange ships. Humans were said to be clever, bold, and unexpectedly strong, capable of feats that defied logic. According to these tales, they had crossed galaxies, solved impossible problems, and even faced dangers that would terrify even the bravest Xylarians. Lyra, however, was not impressed. She often laughed at these stories during council meetings or casual discussions in the lab. Humans? Primitive, slow, and reckless, she would say, her voice calm but tinged with amusement. The idea that they could outsmart us is laughable. Her peers often tried to argue, but she dismissed their concerns with a confident smile. To her, logic and evidence mattered. Myths mattered little. On this particular day, she was reviewing old star charts, tracing the paths humans were rumored to have taken centuries ago. The holograms shimmered with moving constellations and distant planetary systems. Lyra tapped the controls, filtering out irrelevant data, and yet a small part of her felt a tug of curiosity. Could these humans, so often dismissed, have really achieved such things? "Lyra, you shouldn't waste time on stories," her colleague Torrin said gently, peering over her shoulder. "The old legends are not proof. They are entertainment for young minds." Lyra shook her head, smiling. "Torrin, I study facts, not fables. The moment I see actual proof of these so-called humans, I might reconsider. Until then, I have better things to do than chase myths." Torrin sighed, but didn't press further. He had learned long ago that arguing with Lyra on such topics was like trying to stop a comet. It could be done, but it would require patience and endurance he often lacked. As night fell on Xylaris, the twin moons cast silvery shadows across the floating city. Lyra remained in the lab, alone except for the soft hum of energy flowing through the walls. She adjusted the telescope-like sensors aimed at the distant edges of the galaxy, seeking anomalies, anything unusual that might suggest life beyond what they already knew. Hours passed. Stars twinkled, vast and cold, each a sun to its own system. Lyra's mind wandered to the stories she had read in ancient archives, the tales of humans traveling between worlds, challenging danger with nothing but courage and ingenuity. She chuckled softly. "Courage alone does not survive in space," she muttered. "You need intellect, preparation, and humans lack both in excess." Yet her scanners suddenly blinked, drawing her full attention. A faint signal appeared on the edge of the galaxy, irregular but unmistakably artificial. Lyra's pulse quickened, though she tried to suppress it. Could it be a mistake? Some distant satellite, or could it be what she had always dismissed? The signal grew stronger, almost pulsing as if it had a rhythm of its own. Lyra adjusted the filters, running analysis protocols she had never used for anything so subtle. The readings were unlike anything Xylaris had encountered before. "Impossible," she whispered. This is human." Her heart skipped a beat, not out of fear, but disbelief. Humans, the creatures she had mocked, had somehow reached this far, and now one might be closer than she had ever imagined. Lyra felt a mixture of excitement and irritation. Excitement, because discovery was at the core of who she was. Irritation, because everything she believed about humans seemed fragile now. Could the legends be more than stories? She quickly compiled her data, sending it to the Council's mainframe. Almost immediately, messages arrived from her superiors, their tone formal but tense. The Council debated in real time across the communication network. Should they attempt contact? Should they observe? Or should they prepare for potential danger? Lyra listened to the debate, noting how cautious her elders were. "Precaution before curiosity," she murmured. "I would say curiosity first. It has never failed to reveal the truth." Finally, the Council decided that Lyra herself would investigate. They trusted her skill, her intelligence, and her ability to handle unknown situations. Though she had mocked human myths, she was also the best candidate to determine if any of them were real. The next morning, Lyra prepared her craft for departure. Its sleek design was perfect for interstellar travel, equipped with sensors, shields, and propulsion systems beyond human imagination. And yet part of her wondered, what would she actually find? As she moved through the upper layers of Zolaris's atmosphere, the twin suns reflected off her craft's metallic surface. She glanced at the stars, feeling a rare stir of anticipation. Humans had always seemed like tales meant for bedtime stories or historical curiosity, but now the reality might be waiting right in front of her eyes. Hours later, in the emptiness of space, Lyra's instruments detected a faint glow, a ship unlike any Xylarian craft. It moved with grace and precision, yet it was simple in design, almost organic. Her scanners identified the signature as human. Every algorithm and historical reference confirmed it. Lyra's eyes widened. So the myths were true, she breathed, almost in disbelief. She had spent her life dismissing the idea of humans as a joke, yet here one was, a living proof of the legends. Her ship approached cautiously, sensors analyzing every detail. The human ship, though smaller, demonstrated speed and adaptability she had never thought possible. It maneuvered around debris, adjusted to gravitational shifts, and even responded to Xylaris's communications with a level of understanding that was remarkable. Lyra realized she was holding her breath. A human was not just approaching, they were navigating her world's defenses with skill, creativity, and intuition. As the human ship drew closer, Lyra finally saw it, a figure standing within the cockpit, calm, confident, and seemingly aware of her every observation. The human's eyes met hers through the transparent canopy, and for a moment, Lyra felt something she had never expected, a mixture of awe and humility. The myths had mocked humans as primitive, but this being, alive, intelligent, and capable, was nothing like she had imagined. Lyra felt a shift within her. The arrogance she had worn so proudly now felt heavy, almost childish. And so, as she adjusted her instruments for the final approach, Lyra whispered to herself, "Perhaps I have been wrong all this time." The stars around them seemed to shimmer brighter, as if acknowledging the moment of truth. Legends were no longer just stories. They were real. And for the first time, Lyra realized that what she thought she knew about humans was only a fraction of the truth, one she would soon discover, one step at a time. Her journey into the unknown had begun. The human ship hovered in the space near Lyra's craft, small but striking against the vast darkness of the galaxy. Its design was simple yet elegant, built for efficiency and adaptability rather than sheer sophistication. Lyra stared in amazement. Every fiber of her being wanted to analyze, to understand, to find a flaw, yet she could find none. "Impossible," she muttered under her breath, her eyes narrowing as she activated the communication array. "Humans should not be able to do this." A calm voice echoed through the speakers of her craft, surprisingly clear in tone. "Greetings," it said. "I mean no harm. I am Captain Joran of the starship Endeavor. May I know whom I am speaking to?" Lyra blinked, startled. The voice was precise, polite, and confident. She had expected hesitation, perhaps fear, maybe even confusion, but not this. She hesitated for a moment, then replied with a firm tone. "I am Lyra, scientist of Xylaris. You are entering restricted space. State your intentions." Joran's response was calm, measured. "I come seeking knowledge and peaceful contact. My journey has brought me to this system in hopes of learning from your civilization and sharing what I can." Lyra stared at the holographic display showing his ship's design and movement patterns. Every calculation, every maneuver had been perfect. There was no mistake, no luck. This human was navigating the unknown with skill she could hardly believe. "You claim to seek knowledge," she said, trying to keep her skepticism steady. "Yet you travel here alone into a galaxy far beyond your homeworld. Do you not fear danger?" Joran's voice carried a hint of humor, soft but undeniable. "Fear is natural. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to act despite it. I am prepared to face what comes with reason and care." Lyra frowned. The statement sounded almost like the exact words from the legends she had read. The myths. They spoke of humans as reckless, she said quietly, almost to herself. "I thought them exaggerations." "And yet," Joran replied, "perhaps they are not exaggerations at all." Lyra's sensors detected subtle energy readings from his ship, They were unlike any human craft she had seen in simulations or archives. It was adaptive, efficient, and resilient. She realized that the legends had been more accurate than she had ever imagined. The human ship made a gentle approach, aligning itself near her craft. Lyra activated the docking interface. Her hands moved automatically, though her mind was racing. She had never been this intrigued or unsettled by a single being. "Prepare for boarding," she said, though her voice lacked the authority she usually felt. The docking clamps engaged smoothly, and a small airlock extended toward Lyra's craft. Moments later, the hatch opened, revealing Captain Joran in person. He was taller than she expected, with a strong posture that radiated confidence and calm. His uniform was simple but functional, not flashy like the ceremonial outfits of Xylaris. Lyra studied him silently, noticing the details. His eyes were alert, sharp, and intelligent. His movements were precise yet relaxed, a mixture of strength and ease. She had expected awkwardness, maybe even hesitation. What she saw instead was competence and self-assurance. "Welcome," Lyra said, trying to keep her tone neutral. "I am Lyra, scientist of Xylaris. You are in restricted space." Joran inclined his head slightly, a polite gesture. "I understand. Thank you for receiving me. I come with respect and a willingness to learn." Lyra studied him further. The myths had often described humans as bold, sometimes reckless, but Joran seemed measured. He assessed the situation, adapted, and yet carried himself with confidence. Something inside her stirred. She realized she was witnessing the truth behind the legends. "Very well," she said finally. "Follow me. We will observe, and the council will decide your next steps." As they walked through her craft, Lyra explained the technology, the floating city systems, and the sensors. Joran listened carefully, asking questions that were insightful yet straightforward. He didn't mock, he didn't fumble. He simply tried to understand. "Your propulsion system is fascinating," Joran said, examining a display. "It uses controlled magnetic fields to manipulate space-time. Ingenious. On Earth, we rely more on energy efficiency than speed, but your methods, they are impressive." Lyra felt a flicker of pride, but also something else, curiosity. "And what do humans rely on, Captain?" she asked. Joran smiled. "Resourcefulness, cooperation, imagination. We adapt to challenges and work together to solve problems. Our tools are simple compared to yours, but our minds, well, we make the impossible possible." Lyra paused. She had dismissed the myths, laughed at the stories of human ingenuity, but now she could see a living example standing before her, and he was exactly as described, intelligent, brave, and clever. The council, monitoring the interaction remotely, transmitted a message. "Lyra, the human demonstrates remarkable composure and skill. Proceed with observation, but maintain caution." Lyra nodded. "Understood," she replied, though her mind was spinning. She had expected a primitive, awkward being. Instead, she was seeing the essence of human potential. Over the next few hours, Lyra guided Joran through the ship's analytical systems. She demonstrated experiments, simulations, and even small challenges designed to test agility and reasoning. Joran handled each with effortless creativity, solving problems using methods that were unexpected yet effective. At one point, a simulated energy anomaly occurred in the lab. Lyra watched, expecting him to panic or falter. Instead, Joran calmly analyzed the situation, found a solution using available resources, and stabilized the simulation. Lyra could not hide her astonishment. "That was impressive," she said. "No Xylarian, to my knowledge, would have solved it that way." Joran simply nodded, a modest smile on his face. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best. Complexity is not always superior. The hours passed, and Lyra felt her skepticism melt. Every action, every word, every choice Joran made reflected what the legends had always suggested. Humans were adaptable, clever, and courageous. As night fell over Xylaris, Lyra invited Joran to observe the twin moons from the observation deck. The view was breathtaking. Crystalline waters below, floating cities above, and stars stretching endlessly into the void. Joran stared quietly for a moment, then said, "It's beautiful. Your people have achieved so much, and yet I sense there is more to learn, more to discover beyond even this planet." Lyra felt a mix of pride and humility. He was right. Xylaris was advanced, but humans had something she could not define yet. A spark of ingenuity and courage that complemented knowledge. Perhaps, Lyra said softly. The legends were more than just stories. They were truth, Joran replied simply. Sometimes truth takes time to be believed. Lyra smiled, a rare and genuine smile. She had mocked human myths for her entire life, yet here was proof. Living, breathing, capable proof. And more than that, she felt a shift within herself. Perhaps it was not enough to rely on knowledge alone. Perhaps wisdom required understanding, and understanding required openness. As she looked at Joran, she realized the journey ahead would challenge everything she thought she knew. He was not merely a visitor. He was a reminder that the universe was far larger and stranger than she had imagined. The next steps were uncertain, but one thing was clear. Lyra would never view humans the same way again. The myths were real, and now, standing before her, was a human capable of living up to them. And for the first time, she wondered, not with doubt, but with excitement, what else might be true. Lyra led Joran deeper into the heart of the Xylarian research station, a sprawling network of glowing corridors, floating platforms, and holographic data streams. The station was a marvel of technology, a testament to the intelligence of her people. Yet despite all its beauty and complexity, Lyra could not shake the feeling that it might test Joran in ways she could never predict. The council had decided that before any official interaction could continue, they would observe him through a series of trials, simulations and puzzles designed to measure adaptability, reasoning, and creativity. Lyra, as the scientist in charge, was to guide and record these trials. She felt a thrill of responsibility, but also a quiet tension. Could a human truly meet these challenges? Joran followed her calmly, his posture steady, his eyes scanning everything with curiosity. He spoke little, but his presence carried a quiet confidence that unsettled Lyra more than she would admit. "You seem confident," she said finally, breaking the silence. "You are aware these trials were never passed by any other non-Xylarian before?" Joran smiled faintly. "I am aware, but I do not assume I know the outcome. I can only try and adapt as I go." Lyra almost laughed. The legends had spoken of humans as clever, but this was beyond mere cleverness. It was patience, observation, and calm reasoning rolled into one. She felt herself both irritated and impressed. The first trial involved a complex energy grid. Holographic beams crisscrossed the room, each shifting unpredictably. The task was to redirect the energy to a central hub without triggering the safety fail-safes. Lyra had seen Xylarian trainees fail this simulation many times. "Begin," she said, stepping aside. Joran observed the grid silently for a few moments. Then, with deliberate motions, he began manipulating the controls. Instead of attacking the problem head-on, he observed patterns, predicted beam movements, and used subtle adjustments to guide the energy. In minutes, the grid stabilized and the central hub lit up with a steady glow. Lyra's jaw dropped. She had expected hesitation, mistakes, or at least the need for multiple attempts. Yet here was a human, solving a problem she had considered nearly impossible for anyone without advanced training. "How?" she began, but Joran only smiled politely. "Observation and patience go a long way," he said. "Rushing often creates errors. I simply watch the system before acting." The next trial was a physical one, an obstacle course designed to simulate low-gravity maneuvering while avoiding environmental hazards. Xylarian trainees often struggled with the course, tripping over floating platforms or misjudging distances. Lyra watched as Joran entered. At first he moved cautiously, testing each platform. But soon he adapted, learning the rhythm of the course. He leapt, twisted, and glided with surprising agility, correcting each movement with subtle adjustments. When he reached the end, he did not stumble once. Lyra felt her skepticism eroding with each step he took. He was not relying on Xylarian technology or training, just his instincts, intuition, and quick thinking. It was exactly what the legends had described, humans against odds finding their own way to succeed. "Remarkable," she murmured. "Your methods, they are not what we would consider efficient by our standards, yet they work flawlessly." Joran tilted his head. "Efficiency is not always measured by rules or tradition. Sometimes it is measured by results." The third trial involved problem-solving under pressure. A simulated communication network had been disrupted, and the task was to restore it using limited tools and instructions in an alien system. Lyra watched as Joran examined the broken network. He didn't panic or rely on brute force. Instead, he traced signals, found logical patterns, and repaired the connections methodically. Lyra realized something she had never considered. Joran's approach was adaptable. He didn't rely solely on what he had been taught. He observed, analyzed, and improvised. In essence, he turned limitations into opportunities. During the trial, Lyra's curiosity overcame her caution. "How do you know what to do in systems so alien to you?" she asked. Joran paused, then replied, "I focus on principles, not appearances. Every system has rules. If you understand the rules, you can work with any system, no matter how strange it looks." Lyra's mind raced. That statement was simple yet profound. Humans had always been described as bold and inventive, but here was a living example demonstrating the essence of human ingenuity. The final trial was designed to test leadership and cooperation. Lyra had brought in holographic avatars representing other Xylarians in challenging situations. Energy malfunctions, collapsing structures, and complex tasks requiring coordination. The avatars followed commands but could also respond unpredictably. Joran assessed the situation carefully. Rather than issuing direct commands, he observed, suggested, and encouraged. He coordinated the avatar's efforts, adapting strategies as challenges shifted. Within the simulation, the scenario was resolved flawlessly. Lyra stepped back, awe mingling with disbelief. She had studied human myths for years, mocking them as exaggerations. Yet here was a human embodying exactly what the legends claimed: courage, creativity, adaptability, and the ability to lead even in unfamiliar circumstances. The council observed remotely, their monitors filled with data and holographic representations of the trials. Even the most skeptical members were silent, clearly impressed. Lyra found herself asking questions she had never considered before. Could humans truly have such potential? Could they survive and even thrive in situations no one else could? She had mocked the myths for decades, yet now she was witnessing proof, undeniable and alive. Joran, unaware of her inner struggle, spoke softly. "You seem surprised." Lyra shook her head, almost smiling. "I am unprepared for this. I expected chaos, errors, hesitation. Instead, I see capability, ingenuity, and calm, even under pressure." Joran nodded. "Humans are not perfect. We make mistakes. But we also have resilience. We learn quickly, and when we work together, we can overcome challenges no matter the odds." Lyra looked at him, the soft glow of the holographic displays reflecting in her eyes. For the first time, she felt a sense of respect, tinged with humility. She had dismissed humans as primitive, yet here was one standing before her, embodying the very myths she had ridiculed. The trials ended, and Lyra recorded her observations, her hands moving quickly but with a newfound reverence. She realized that this human, Captain Joran, was not just clever or lucky. He represented the potential of humanity itself, a species capable of surprising even the most advanced civilizations. "Captain," she said finally, her voice steady but tinged with admiration, "you have exceeded every expectation. Your performance, it is beyond anything I imagined possible." Joran inclined his head modestly. "Thank you. I only do what any human would try to do. Adapt, observe, and act wisely." Lyra smiled faintly, though she could not hide her awe. Perhaps the legends were not myths at all. Perhaps they were warnings or guidance. Warnings to underestimate humans at your peril, and guidance that true ingenuity can come from anywhere, even the least expected places. The human nodded. Legends often carry lessons even when their details seem exaggerated. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. As the observation deck filled with soft ambient light, Lyra turned to watch the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of mystery, danger, and opportunity. She realized that Joran was more than a visitor. He was a reminder that intelligence and courage were not limited to her own kind. Lyra felt a shift within herself. She had entered this experiment skeptical, even mocking, but now she saw possibilities she had never considered. Humans were not merely a curiosity, they were a force of ingenuity, capable of teaching her and her people new ways to think, to act, and to imagine. For the first time, she allowed herself to wonder, what else could humans accomplish? What other truths had the legends hidden from those unwilling to see? And most importantly, how could she, Lyra of Xylaris, learn from this remarkable visitor? As the night deepened and the twin moons of Xylaris cast silvery light over the station, Lyra realized that the journey had only just begun. Joran had proven his skills, his courage, and his ingenuity. But more than that, he had opened her mind to the idea that humans could exceed expectations in ways no one had imagined. And in that realization, she found not only curiosity, but inspiration. The galaxy, vast and full of secrets, seemed suddenly smaller and full of potential. Lyra turned to Joran. "Tomorrow," she said, "we will begin the next phase. You will face new challenges and perhaps teach me more than I ever expected." Joran smiled. "I look forward to it." For the first time, Lyra understood the truth behind the myths. Humans were not simply clever, strong, or bold. They were capable of adapting, innovating, and inspiring in ways that even the most advanced civilizations might never fully predict. And in that moment, she knew. The story of humans was not over. It was only beginning. The morning light of Xylaris shimmered across the crystalline surfaces of the research station, casting reflections that danced like living stars. Lyra moved quickly through the corridors, her mind alert and focused. Today was the most important day yet. Captain Joran, the human who had already exceeded every expectation, would face the Council's design tests, challenges that combined unpredictability, strategy, and adaptation. These trials were unlike any simulation she had previously conducted. Lyra had spent hours preparing. The tests were meant to push the limits of problem-solving, teamwork, and quick thinking. She knew the Council intended to observe not only skill, but also the ability to remain calm under pressure. But now, after seeing Joran in action, she felt a mixture of anticipation and genuine excitement. She had no idea how he would handle what awaited him, yet she knew it would be extraordinary. "Captain," Lyra said as she greeted Joran in the observation chamber, "today your abilities will be tested in environments that change constantly. You will need to adapt, make decisions quickly, and sometimes collaborate with unexpected allies." Joran nodded, calm and composed. "I am ready," he replied. His tone carried the quiet confidence of someone who trusted not only his mind but also his ability to learn from any situation. The first challenge involved navigating a complex environment designed to simulate an alien, terrain with unpredictable gravity fields. Platforms shifted, obstacles appeared without warning, and paths that seemed stable could vanish in an instant. Lyra observed as Joran entered the simulation. At first he moved carefully, testing the shifting surfaces with small, precise steps. Unlike Xylarians, who relied heavily on predictive calculations, he seemed to rely on instinct and observation. He quickly adjusted to changes, leaping or shifting with smooth efficiency. Every movement was intentional, measured, and adaptable. Lyra felt her admiration growing. "Humans truly have an instinct for survival," she whispered. "Even in situations we consider impossible, they find a way." When the simulation reached its peak difficulty, with multiple platforms moving in opposite directions, Joran paused for a moment, scanning the entire field. Then he acted. His actions were a mix of improvisation and foresight. Using a series of small jumps and timed maneuvers, he navigated the environment flawlessly. The Council, observing remotely, remained silent. Even they were impressed. Xylarian trainees had struggled with this challenge for weeks, yet this human had accomplished it with elegance and speed. "Remarkable," Lyra said when Joran exited the simulation. "You rely less on our technology and more on your own reasoning and agility. That is, something the legends spoke of, yet I never believed until now." Joran smiled faintly. Legends often underestimate what people can do when faced with uncertainty. The second challenge tested strategic thinking and leadership. Holographic avatars representing a team of Xylarian units were placed in a scenario where energy systems were failing across a small cityscape. The objective was to coordinate the avatars, restore stability, and ensure no systems were damaged. Lyra watched as Joran assessed the situation. Rather than issuing direct commands, he observed each avatar's capabilities, identified their strengths, and delegated tasks thoughtfully. He adapted his strategy as the simulation evolved, responding to sudden malfunctions with calm logic. Lyra realized she had never seen such a combination of observation, planning, and improvisation in anyone before. He wasn't just solving problems, he was teaching them. One council member, usually stern and critical, whispered, "His approach? It is different from anything we have trained, yet it works better than our best methods." The third challenge tested creativity. Joran was presented with an energy-based puzzle that required manipulating light and force fields to achieve a goal. Traditional methods were impossible. The solution demanded a new way of thinking. Lyra watched as he studied the puzzle. He did not follow a conventional path or consult manuals. Instead, he experimented, testing ideas quickly, discarding what failed and building on what worked. Within minutes, the puzzle was solved, using an approach that was elegant and unexpected. "Your thinking is not linear," Lyra remarked. "It is flexible, intuitive, almost artistic." Joran's eyes twinkled. Creativity is part of problem-solving. Sometimes solutions are found not in the rules, but in understanding the system as a whole. The final test was the most difficult, a multi-phase scenario combining all previous elements, navigation, strategy, and creativity, while under simulated pressure. Lyra's heart raced as Joran entered. The holographic city shifted constantly. Energy grids fluctuated and environmental hazards appeared without warning. Lyra had expected hesitation, perhaps confusion. Instead, Joran moved with confidence, calmness, and remarkable intuition. He adapted to every change instantly, coordinated the holographic units effectively, and solved each sub-challenge with creativity. By the end of the test, the simulation had stabilized perfectly. Lyra exhaled deeply. She realized she was witnessing something extraordinary, a being capable of thinking beyond the limits of convention, adapting instantly, and inspiring those around him. She turned to the council monitors. Every member was silent, analyzing, but she could see astonishment in their expressions. Even the most skeptical among them could not deny the truth before them. Humans, represented by Joran, were capable of greatness. Lyra felt a surge of respect and humility. For years she had mocked the myths, believing humans to be primitive and ill-prepared. Now she understood that they were not merely clever. They were adaptable, resilient, and capable of inspiring others. "Captain," she said as Joran exited the simulation, "you have shown more than skill. You have shown vision, adaptability, and leadership. You have proven that humans are remarkable." Joran inclined his head modestly. "I only do what anyone with determination and observation can do. Adapt, learn, and act wisely. Anyone could try." Lyra shook her head, smiling faintly. "Anyone could try, perhaps, but very few could succeed as gracefully as you have." The day ended with Lyra and Joran standing on the observation deck, gazing at the galaxy. The stars stretched endlessly, each one a mystery waiting to be understood. She realized that her perspective had shifted completely. The myths she had once mocked were no longer stories. They were truths waiting to be experienced. "Lyra," Joran said quietly, "you seem changed. Perhaps the human stories were meant to teach, not just entertain." Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, they were meant to inspire, to remind us that ingenuity, courage, and cooperation can achieve the impossible. And perhaps we often underestimate the potential that lies within the unexpected." She looked at Joran, the human who had challenged her beliefs and expanded her understanding. "I want to learn more," she admitted. "Not just about humans, but about the ways we can work together. Perhaps we can achieve more than either of our species imagined." Joran smiled, the calm confidence in his eyes unshaken. "Then let's discover it together." As night fell over Xylaris, the twin moons casting silver light over the floating city, Lyra felt a profound sense of possibility. Humans, she realized, were not merely legends. They were living proof that courage, creativity, and ingenuity could surpass expectation. And she knew that this was only the beginning. The floating city of Xylaris shimmered under the light of its twin moons, and within the central observation chamber, Lyra prepared for the final assessment of Captain Joran. After days of trial, simulations, and observation, the council had one last question. Could a human not only survive in Xylaris but also inspire and collaborate with an advanced civilization? Lyra felt a mixture of excitement and responsibility. The trial so far had already exceeded all expectations. Joran had demonstrated ingenuity, adaptability, and calm intelligence in ways she had never imagined possible. But the council's final test was designed not just to measure skill, but to explore the potential for cooperation across species something that could shape the future of their worlds. "Captain," Lyra said as she activated the simulation, "this is the last phase. It will test your ability to lead, adapt, and collaborate under conditions that change unpredictably. The objective is not only to succeed yourself but to help others succeed as well." Joren nodded calmly. "I understand. Let's proceed." The simulation began. Holographic representations of various alien ecosystems flickered to life. Floating crystal forests, energy storms, and shifting terrain. Teams of Xylarian avatars needed guidance, and the environment was deliberately unstable, designed to challenge even the most advanced minds. Lyra observed as Joren analyzed the situation. He did not rush. Instead, he took time to study patterns, anticipate changes, and identify the strengths of each avatar. Then, with clear instructions and gentle guidance, he coordinated their efforts. At one point, a sudden energy surge threatened to destabilize part of the simulation. Most observers would have panicked or focused solely on damage control. Joren, however, remained calm. He quickly assessed the situation, adjusted the strategies of his team, and neutralized the surge using methods both creative and efficient. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. Humans had been described as resourceful in the legends, but she was witnessing a living demonstration of resilience, intelligence, and leadership. Joren was not simply solving problems, he was inspiring others to reach their full potential. The simulation shifted again, this time introducing unexpected obstacles, communication disruptions, environmental hazards, and conflicting objectives. Lyra braced herself, wondering how he would handle such complexity. Joren paused, taking in the full scope of the challenge. Then, step by step, he adapted. He delegated tasks intelligently, predicted potential problems, and adjusted plans in real time. Even when faced with uncertainty, his actions remained precise, thoughtful, and calm. The council, observing remotely, was silent. Even the most skeptical members could not hide their admiration. One elder whispered, "The myths? Perhaps they underestimated not the humans, but ourselves. We have failed to see the potential that lies in them." Lyra felt a surge of pride and humility. For years she had mocked the stories, believing humans to be primitive and ill-prepared. Now she understood that the legends had not exaggerated. They had captured the essence of human potential. When the simulation ended, every challenge resolved successfully. Lyra turned to Joren. "Captain," she said, her voice calm but full of emotion, "you have not only succeeded in the trials but have also demonstrated something remarkable. Humans are capable of collaboration, adaptation, and leadership beyond what we ever imagined." Joren inclined his head modestly. "I am grateful for the opportunity. We all have potential when we work together. Knowledge and experience grow stronger when shared, regardless of where we come from." Lyra smiled, a genuine smile that reflected both admiration and respect. "I once thought humans were myths. Now I see you are living proof of the stories. You have shown courage, creativity, and wisdom, and more than that, you have inspired me." For the first time, Lyra realized the depth of the legends. They were not merely tales of bravery or skill. They were reminders that the human spirit could achieve extraordinary things, even when faced with the unknown. The council transmitted their final judgment. "Captain Joren has surpassed all expectations. Not only has he proven human ingenuity, but he has also demonstrated leadership and collaboration of the highest order. Xylaris recognizes the value of engaging with humans and learning from their perspective." Lyra felt a surge of excitement. This was more than personal vindication. It was the beginning of something new. Humans, long dismissed as myths or curiosities, were now recognized as equals capable of contributing to the growth of civilizations. As the formalities ended, Lyra and Joren walked to the observation deck, gazing at the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of possibilities and untold stories. "You have changed my perspective completely," Lyra admitted. "I thought I understood intelligence, skill, and ingenuity. But seeing you, I realized that humans bring something different, something essential. Creativity, adaptability, courage, a spark that complements what we already know." Joren smiled gently. "Perhaps that is what legends are meant to do, to remind others that potential exists in places you may least expect, and that sometimes learning from others can change your world." Lyra considered his words. For so long she had relied solely on her own knowledge and the accomplishments of Xylaris. But now she understood that true progress required openness, collaboration, and humility. Humans were not only capable of greatness, they could inspire it in others. "Captain," she said finally, "I want to continue learning with you. Not just about humans, but about the ways we can work together, share knowledge, and explore the galaxy. There is so much we can achieve." Jorn's eyes gleamed with quiet confidence. "Then let us discover it together." Over the following weeks, Lyra and Jorn worked closely. They combined Xylarian technology with human ingenuity, creating new methods to explore distant planets, study energy phenomena, and develop strategies for safe interstellar travel. The collaboration inspired other Xylarians to observe, learn, and rethink their assumptions about humans. Lyra's respect and admiration for Jorn, and humanity as a whole, grew with each passing day. She realized that the legends were not exaggerations, nor were they simple stories to entertain. They were truths waiting to be proven by those willing to embrace them. One evening, as they observed a distant star system from the observation deck, Lyra spoke softly. "I once mocked human myths. I believed they were nonsense, stories to amuse children or distract scientists. Now I see they were more than that. They were warnings, guidance, and inspiration all in one." Jorn nodded, looking at the stars with her. Legends often contain the seed of truth, and when someone acts on that truth, the story becomes real. Lyra smiled, feeling a deep sense of purpose. "I want to see more of that truth. I want to witness what humans can achieve, not just in stories, but in the universe. And I want to ensure that Xylaris learns alongside them." The twin moons of Xylaris reflected in her eyes, and for the first time, she truly understood the beauty of collaboration. Humans, she realized, were more than clever or brave. They were living examples of what was possible when determination, ingenuity, and courage were combined. And in that realization, Lyra felt the spark of something new. Hope. Hope for her people, hope for humans, and hope for the future of exploration, learning, and discovery. As the galaxy stretched endlessly around them, Lyra knew that this was only the beginning. Captain Jorn had proven the myths true, and in doing so, had opened the door to a new era, one in which humans and Xylarians could learn from one another, push boundaries, and achieve wonders neither could accomplish alone. For Lyra, the lesson was clear: never dismiss a legend, for behind every myth could lie a truth capable of changing everything. And as she looked at Jorn standing calmly beside her, she understood the most important truth of all. Humans were not just stories. They were living proof that courage, ingenuity, and determination could reach across worlds and inspire the universe itself. With that understanding, Lyra smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude, excitement, and anticipation. The universe was vast, full of mystery, and yet full of opportunity. Together, Xylaris and humanity could face it, learn from it, and expand the horizons of what was possible. And somewhere deep within her, Lyra knew that the stories of human warriors, once mocked, now understood, would continue to inspire generations to come.